This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 587 with guest Dave McCabe, recorded on October 12th, 2023. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.TV studios here in a thunderstorm-like. It's kind of weird to be in October and have thunderstorms rolling through, but that's happening tonight. And, of course, we'll post a show with some world-class show notes. We're backed up well, so the show's not going to go anywhere out at the AverageGuy.TV. Big thanks to Bob and Ryan, who joined me last week from thinkcomputers.org. It's a miracle I didn't buy anything after that show. Usually those guys talk me into something. I didn't do it, but if you want to catch that show, it's out there now. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/HGG587. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you're finding value in the podcast and you want to give back, and a bunch of you do, appreciate you doing that, head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. I mentioned him earlier. It's always great to be with him. He is my best friend in podcasting. Dave McCabe is here. Dave, welcome back.
Hello, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. I know Uyghur's not around anymore, so I can say that. I can say you're my best friend in podcasting.
I always enjoy coming back, though. And I always enjoyed speaking with Uyghur, too. We went through some crypto.
Yeah, we did.
Me, you, and him back in the day.
We did. I think I remember leaving your house at some point, installing a GPU or something, right?
We did.
So you could do some
That's
crypto?
right. Yeah. You initially got me, and did we go out and buy us?
I think we went out to
Fry's.
Yeah.
And bought a GPU, came back and put on nice hash.
We stayed up late that night. I had an early
Something
flight.
went wrong.
Yeah. You were taking me to the airport early.
Yeah.
And it was across town. Fishers is way up north. The airport is way down south.
Yeah.
So we got up super early. You dropped me I think that's the last meetup. And God, it's hard to think we've been doing it that long.
I know. A lot of things have changed.
A lot has, and a lot has stayed the same. I mean, listen, in the last couple of years, you've kind of gotten into the wood shop, right? You're working on that. What's been amazing to watch you go through that is those tools, they've gotten a little more high tech in what they're doing, but they're still it's still table saws and routers. And I mean, I watch these guys online do this stuff, and there's a few more jigs, right? and different kinds of things you can do, but that hasn't changed a lot. Would you agree or disagree with that statement? You think there's a lot of technology in the wood shop?
The basics have remained the same, and these guys with their YouTubes, they are honing this skill towards technology and the things that are coming out now. I mean, obviously, everybody has seen the hot dog table saw, where if you touch the blade and it'll just the blade just drops into the table. You don't cut your finger off and change your life forever. But there are handheld CNCs, by Shaper Tools, and there are router tables that are just amazing, and there's all kinds of neat stuff. And I used to, when we were in the technical world, part of the allure of the whole thing is the research, the reading, the comparing, and the acquiring. Gadget acquisition was always a thing. It was like, I have a new thing, right? I have something to do this weekend because I have to do this thing. And woodworking, and much like photography, I found as well, it's really, really similar, where it's an acquisition of a tool, and you use that tool and you practice that tool, and then you add that tool into your arsenal of tools to make tables or whatever you're
Mhm.
making. And
Or designs like that's over my shoulder here. If you're watching the video, you
hey,
made
there's your sign. I
album art
forgot about
for me.
that.
Yeah, yeah. No, you sent
That
that
just
to me last.
blended right in, Jim. I
Yeah.
completely spaced on that. That's
Yeah.
that's
No,
awesome.
it's proudly displayed there over my left shoulder, and that's a cool. I mean, it's a super cool. Like you made that, and for me, I mean, that's special. It's special to me that you took the time to do the art. I don't have the patience for that kind of stuff. I've kind of realized I'm kind of an instant guy, and I like to do a lot of things instantly, but I don't do very well on the long-term projects, right?
Mhm.
Because you got to bring some patience to it. I think you talked about that last time you were on, right?
One of my most favorite things to do is just to get that idea in your head, and you're like, "Ooh, I bet you I could do that. I bet you I could draw that. I bet you I could create that." And it starts with technology, Jim. I mean, it's crazy the amount of software that I've had to learn, to get into this maker space, especially with that CNC drawing that you have there. It wasn't that hard, but you have to trace all of that. You got to put it on the screen, and then you have to hone that, because it's never perfect, and you want it to be perfect. Your G in Gadget Geeks, it has some defined lines and corners, and they all have to be the same, ratio of curve, or otherwise it's not going to look good. So,
Mhm.
because that's not a font, Jim.
Right.
Someone had to draw that. Your
You outlined
logo.
it, right?
Yeah.
You outlined it for the
Yeah.
CNC, and you can't see it on the camera now, but if with the light shining on it, you can kind of see some of the back. I don't know what you'd call it, shadows of some things that the CNC did to kind
You
of
can see
get
some
it.
of the tool path
Yes, there you
that's
go.
under that paint. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really hard to get rid of. You have to sand for days and days and days and days to get in there. And I get better at that, but it's really hard in those little spaces like that one right there.
Last time we had you on, and I bought one of those, you were making some bar, for a smoker, for a drink, for a cocktail. You had some
Yeah.
charcuterie boards. How's that going? Is it
That's
going where you want it to go?
I would obviously you always want more, but
Yeah.
that's one of my drinkware is one of my most popular items, if you will. And it's two things, Jim. I design for Etsy, and I sell the digital programs, the digital plans, but I also sell locally. I don't go to craft fairs or anything. I don't extend myself that way, but I will, show it around, and people know that, they can get some of their wares here. And I've made shot trays, and there's a certain, I don't even know the name of it, but there's a bourbon glass that's a certain size and bell shaped, and I make trays that hold those specifically. And customization, that's the big key, where you can put their last name on it, or you can put the restaurant name or the bar name. And I can either CNC that, or I can laser that. And a lot of the times I'll do a little bit of both. I'll cut something out of walnut, put some shot glasses in it, put a lime tray where you can put limes in it, and then I'll finish that all up, and then I'll laser in a name or a logo or something, for someone, and just personalize it.
Give me, for folks who weren't around the last time we talked about this, if they wanted to get plans or some of the products I bought from you, maybe one of the first on your store, I think, pretty close.
Yeah, I think
And
maybe you were.
it's working pretty well. It's a smoker, right? It's a drink smoker. So you ship me it's just a round piece, goes over the glass, got a hole in it, puts wood chips on the top, fire it up with the torch, and it shoots smoke down into the drink. We've used it quite a few times. It's still doing pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whiskey smoker.
Yeah.
And I've smoked a lot of apple juice in testing when I was cutting those. So I sell the plan, but I also sell the actual white oak smoker itself, and I'll bundle that up with some oak wood chips, and I never have branched out to other chips. Jim, is there any other flavor?
Cherry'd be good,
I could throw
or
in some cherry.
yeah, with drinks, you got it. Some people think mesquite, but that's more of a meat kind of thing.
Okay.
It just depends on like your own
Mm-hmm.
kind of your own palate on that. Applewood would be really good.
Okay. If I just got to get a hold of that, and I have a certain way that I do it. I have to clean a machine completely to get out, in case I've run through some maple or some oak or, whatever, so I can have it perfect. And then I start running that just manually, and I capture all that. It's not dust, it's actual chips. I have to get it to a point where I'm making a chip.
Yeah, and a small one. I mean,
Yeah,
very,
it needs to be small.
Right.
I tested with so many different sizes, and which I shouldn't have. I should have just said, "Hey, get your own chips." But
I still have the bag you gave me.
Well, if you're successful, if you get a brand new car and they don't put gas in the tank, you're just sitting there like, well, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our big box liquor store, selling those now. Okay. I'm glad I got yours, but you can get chips there too. If you go to that, if you want to get them there, you can, but it was neat for me to get it from you. You shipped it to me with some screens and chips, and we use that thing pretty frequently. As the fall is coming on, we'll use it more as we go out and do cocktails around the fire. If you go out to Etsy.com, search Dave McCabe Woodworks, you can find that there. Do you have a site as well dedicated to that? Or
yeah,
is it just Etsy?
Actually, this podcast is brought to you by Squarespace. No. Warped boards, like warped bent boards, warpedboards.com. That's my website, and it is a Squarespace.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, and it gives you this is a journey I've also followed you on, and so it's been fun to see you get a little bit here, building some cabinets there. We'll maybe talk about that here in a little bit. Some cabinets here, some charcuterie boards, the drinks. You mentioned to me, though, that you went 3D printer, and this is a 3D printer is something like, I know I want it. I can never pull the trigger. Every time I get close to pulling the trigger on it, I'm like, I am never going to use this thing. Why? Because it takes too much work. You got to plan for things. I'm just not good at that kind of stuff, but obviously because you have a wood shop, you are. Why a 3D printer? What are you doing with it?
Well, I'll tell you, I used to go to CES all the time, and I would go through the 3D printing aisle, and I would just covet. I'm just like, I want one of these. And I never felt like I was qualified to do it. And I was always going to walk up to him and say, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. Give me a 3D printer and we'll figure it out. And we'll do videos or something." And I never did it. I never pulled the trigger because it was always difficult. If you looked up what these guys had to do and to perform every time they printed something, it was always a hassle. You always had to level the bed, and you always had filament problems and heat problems and hot end problems. And it was a mess, Jim. It was a mess. So I always waited, and I watched and waited. And then I found a company last year around this time that had a Kickstarter. And I was like, I'm going to watch this because what they're saying is shooting that puck to me, to the consumer that I am. And I've been burnt by Kickstarters before, so I did not invest the money into their first machine. But I watched that first machine come out, and it had some hiccups, and it had some troubles, and it got refined, and software improved. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this is a good machine. And then they came out with their second machine, right? So they started iterating, and then they started pushing the technology down farther and farther in price. Now, we're talking about machines that 3D printing were $200, $300, $500, right? You could get into a machine. You buy a $500 3D printer and you're golden, right? What normally happened is you bought a $200 or $300 3D printer and you put $500 worth of add-on parts onto it just so it would work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what these guys were doing is they were trying to be the Apple of the 3D printing world. You take it out of the box, you click a few buttons, you attach something, the door, whatever, something very easily out of shipping. You open their software, highly, highly moderated and curated software to that machine, and you hit print. And instead of a big glob of spaghetti filament, you got a print, right? Now that company, and anybody that's followed 3D printers right now, this company is either loved or hated, is a company out of China called Bambu Labs. And they came out with the X1C, X1 Carbon. And then they came out with the P1P. Their third machine was the P1S. And now they have an even more entry-level machine called the A1. Now, what these guys have done is, Jim, back in the day, you know what the 3D printer looks like. It's got the flat bed, it's got an X and a Y, or it's got a Z, and then the bed moves like this. It was called a bed slinger. And the print head stayed in the same spot, right? The reason I clued into this company is because they created an XY printer, meaning it had movement in the X and the Y region, as well as Z up and down. And that's exactly what I am trained to do with the CNC. My brain thinks XYZ, right? I know how that works. And I was like, I think I can get behind this. Now, what you're showing your viewers is the Bambu Lab P1S. This is the entry-level printer, but it has the sides and the doors and the top. But it also comes with this little gadget on the top with 4 rolls of filament in this box called the material management system, the AMS, automatic material system. And you can print in those 4 colors, Jim, and it will change them on the fly for you. If you have a little white, it'll print a white, a little green, a little red, and it'll go back and forth, and it'll make whatever you want in multiple
where in
colors.
the past you'd have to change the filament, right? To make
you would
happen.
in your software, you would have to build in a pause and then pull out the filament, put in the new filament, purge the filament, and then hit print, and then hope that you had enough flowing that it was going to pick up and do everything, what you wanted. Now, I got one that's similar to this, Jim, but this is mine is called the P1P. It's a very stripped down black box. It had no sides, no doors, no windows right there, and it's just basic, but it has the XYZ, and it's an amazing printer, Jim. Amazing, and it did everything that I was hoping it would do, that I followed this company for many, many months. I put it in the basement, Jim, in the exact same spot where you and I sat on the floor and put a 1060 video card into one of my PCs and got nice hash running.
I know that spot. Yeah.
Sat in that spot and printed out my first print, and I was just blown away. I've since I built a desk. I'm a woodworker. I needed a desk. I built a desk, and I have it in my office, which is now a hobby room. I've built a ginormous hobby desk for Legos and models and whatnot, and me and the boys will sit at our hobby desk and throw Legos at each other. So we have a good time.
Yeah, that's nice. The Lego bit, right? My kids, my oldest, almost 35, and we were talking about Christmas this year, and they're still adding Legos to
Yeah.
to their.
I
Yeah,
have one. I'm in the middle. I can look over here and look at my table, and I see my Lego that's in process.
yeah, yeah. Well, and my Marine, he builds the NASA Legos, so he's got the space shuttle and the
Mm-hmm.
Apollo, all the Apollo stuff, and all the NASA gear. He likes. So what was the first thing you printed? I mean, what'd you print on it?
I did test prints, Jim, of
Okay.
course. I refined what I thought it would do, how I thought it would do it. And then I bought it, Jim, to help me out in the wood shop. I mean, simple as that. I wanted to print extra little doodads to help me out, organization. I have some tools that you can that 3D prints are readily available for them to, that clip on, that help you. I always have an idea of like, man, if I just could, print that, if I could just do that. And I had the experience in 2D with the CNC. Now the CNC is a subtractive mechanism, right? You put a block of something and you subtract material away from it to create. And 3D, you have to think opposite. You have to lay foundations. You have to create something in 3D space. And that took, different softwares and new thinkings, and where you're, creating rectangles and circles and extruding it and dimensions and cuts. And it's amazing. It's fun to get an idea in your head and you think, wait, I could make that. And then I'm one of those people where if that happens at 11 p.m., I'm screwed, because I will be up until 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Getting that idea out of my head, trying to create that in a 3D workspace.
Yeah.
And then throwing it onto the printer. I remember the first thing I did, I was like, I needed this round gasket thing, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I was like, wait a minute. I have to literally create the circle, extrude it to the depth that I want the gasket, and then do the inner diameter and the outer diameter. I'm like, that's very easy. But it hit me at that point. It's like, wait a minute. I'm not downloading, a dinosaur off the free 3D printer site anymore. I'm creating what I need at that moment. And it's one of those magical moments that unlocks in your brain. It's like, wait a minute, I can make this,
Yeah. I think it requires, when you're sculpting, that's also taking away, but I think it's the same idea, this creativity of building something out of nothing. And I've never been very good at that. You talk about this and I'm like, oh, that would be super frustrating for me. Now, if you could, if I could get a community and they had plans and there was things I could go get, bring it in and print it. I'm assuming that's
a
exists.
Beautiful thing with this. Now it is changing, and it's changing very fast. And Jim, when I first got into it, and I'm talking early summer, right, is when I first got my printer. You can go to all these different sites out here on the internet and just look through not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands of free things to do. And yes, you can print a Pokemon. You can print something from the Mario world, but you can also, people just have a need, Jim. And like that gasket of mine, you can take that gasket and just put it online and say, hey, if you have a need for a gasket, that's this, here's it free. I built it, take it. And there's this stupid thing like this thing right here. It's just this little holder for a Apple Watch puck, right? It just holds an Apple Watch. And I have a hand-me-down Apple Watch, and sometimes when it's up here, I'll throw it on that little thing. And it was one of those, like, I ran across it and was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I should just print that.
Yeah.
And I told myself, well, I'm not going to get crazy printing tchotchkes and knickknacks. But I don't know. I see something. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. Let me grab this. I have SSDs and little hard drives on my desk, plugged into the back of my computer, and I can literally slide that drive into this little holder. I don't have, yeah, here it is. I still have tons of hard drives, guys. It never changes.
Yeah, it never changes.
Right. Here's a little, it's just an example of, a small SSD. And I mostly have those little external Western Digital drives that have the little glossy case,
right.
And it just sits. I got it. It just sits in this little holder on your desk. It's just little things like that just blow me away that somebody had the need and they just like, I'm just going to make that.
What does something like that? How much time? There's a lot of material. You think in that hard drive holder that you get there. What's
this was
on this new printer?
This was probably an hour or two to print, and it was probably something this size here, Jim. This is fitting in the palm of my hand for audio listeners.
Yeah.
This was probably 70 cents in plastic
and filament,
because you can get a kilogram of filament for anywhere from $12 to $30, depending on its type. And I just print in the very basic filaments called PLA, polylactic acid something. And you can print those and it doesn't release off like harmful gases and like if you're printing carbon fiber stuff.
Mm-hmm. Joe asked, do those require you to use their filaments? So for these,
what I have found, their filaments, Bambu Labs, are amazing. They'll put an RFID tag into their spool, and when you put it in that material system, that little box of 4, it'll recognize that and it'll tell your software immediately, hey, this is a PLA matte. It's marine blue, and it starts with 1 kilogram. It knows, and then it will count off how much it uses and get to the end. So you can use theirs, but you can also use filaments you get off Amazon. Amazon has some basic stuff I wouldn't use, but there's other manufacturers, Sunlu and eSun. And if you're fortunate enough to have a Micro Center near you, Micro Center has their own filament brand called Inland, and they put it on sale all the time, Jim. And we here in the X Home Server Show headquarters now have a Micro Center.
Oh.
And it is one of the most amazing stores. Jim, I don't want to rub this in at all.
You are, but keep going.
I'm going to. In my Micro Center parking lot, I can throw a rock and hit 3 stores. Micro Center, Rockler. For those that don't know, Rockler is a woodworking store that has amazing tools and everything you could ever want, and a Harbor Freight.
Oh.
So
cheap tools.
3 places. And if I throw the rock a little harder, I can hit a Sam Ash, an REI. It's just this amazing spot here in central Indiana that I'm sure if we had another meetup, we would go to the Micro Center.
Is that in Fishers? Is that in Fishers?
It is not. They put it right off one of the big freeways.
Okay.
So, but is literally like 15 minutes from me, Jim.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds great. In it, these, so, you prefaced this conversation with, 3D printing. We've kind of gotten the idea that you can get a $150 or a $300 one. The one you got is $600.
I am in about $1,000 because I bought that material system, which that was my plan all along. And they just recently released, you can get into the A1, which is a smaller, it's actually a bed slinger Bambu Lab printer with a material system. I think you can get into that for $500 or less. So
And they say out of the box, ready to go, 15-minute setup. You
Yes.
can be printing in 15 minutes.
That is the absolute truth.
Wow. Wow.
I had a great experience with it. Now you're going to find experiences that vary, from people to people. Stuff gets damaged, but if you do have a micro center near you, they stock this printer and you can purchase it from them as well.
Vibration compensation, extrusion compensation. So it's compensating, right, for some of the stuff that may happen. It has automatic leveling.
Automatic bed leveling. It prints faster than any printer on the market, pretty close, except some very high-end, hand hewn type printers. But it prints so fast, Jim, that the head moves and the machine will move. So they have those vibration dampeners. They have sensors, and when you get it, you run a program, and it will vibrate it on purpose. So it can measure the return vibrations where you have it sitting. If you have it sitting on a pizza box, it's going to move all over the place. But, anytime you move it, you just rerun that calibration, and it will do that for you automatically.
Yeah. So it has like an automatic, like your printer has got a cleaning, clean the head and those things. It has some automatic things you can hit and it'll recenter itself basically.
Yeah, it does that.
Rewrite itself.
It does that. It has an app for Android and iOS, and you can literally, it's a print from the cloud type device, which both makes people happy and freaks people out, right? Because it's connected, and people don't like that. People have tinfoil hats. Right. I don't mind. If they want to see the stupid crap that I'm printing, that's fine. I don't care. Anybody can take a look at the stupid crap I'm printing. I do have a couple of designs that are my own that I am selling on Etsy, but they're not like, we're not talking rocket ship parts here. If they get copied, they get copied. If someone steals it and makes it, because you can literally look at the idea and go, well, I can make that, Dave. Yeah. Why would I pay you that?
Right. Right.
But,
well, and in your case, sometimes, well, hey, yeah, you could make it. I put an hour or two or whatever into it. You can save somebody the time. They can pay for it. They could probably do it themselves.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the CNC that I own, that company is embracing the 3D printing world. And they just came out and said, hey, look, we designed some trays. If you want them, here, print them. They even put the commercial flag on. Said, if you want to sell them, just link back to us and say, hey, Shapeoko made this, or, Carbide 3D made this.
Right.
And I'm even doing some of that. And I showed you some pictures earlier of some of those pretty blue and green trays that hold bits for the CNC that I operate today. And it's really neat. It's a very open world right now. Now that's changing, Jim. That is changing day by day by day, actually. Not even, there you go. If you're watching on video, if you look to the left, you can see Carbide 3D created some bit trays that hold bits and whatnot. And I myself wanted to add to it. So I created a little CNC. You can see the board that's holding the trays. I created that little tray holder. And then I created these little blue and gray ones on the right, Jim. Those are my designs. They're very simple, but I needed some open trays.
Yeah, the tray underneath it's wood, right?
Yes.
And then the trays, you've printed trays on top of it. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. And you can see how I double the colors. It makes it look nice. I got the little blue and gray and the green and gray, which I think looks.
So that might be a router bit tray might be in there, right? You could.
It's the idea is to have that in the drawer to keep it clean and undamaged. But when you need to bring out your most used clamps and bits and wrenches and whatnots for your CNC, which it's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And most people just have this cardboard box, right, with all their stuff in it, or you cut a tray out and you think it's like a shadow tray where you put your calipers in there, you put your wrenches in there, and that looks good for the first day, and then you work, and then you just shove everything in there, and so.
I was thinking about, there's those foam tool, you put you
Yes.
put it in the drawer and you can
Yes.
cut it out and put tools in there. I was kind of thinking, what would be cool is you could do that same thing for wrenches, but instead of it being foam, you could put holders or outlines.
There
for
are
these.
plastic holders. Actually, usually when you buy the set of wrenches, it comes with a plastic thing that it's holding it, right? For presentation. It never really works very well for working, but you can 3D print those things now, and you can get those free almost anywhere, Jim. And that's the thing.
Redesign them though. Maybe they're designed to hold the tools in during shipping. You could you could design out. This is where your CNC experience would work, right? Extract out those holders or whatever, and maybe put it so you get your fingers around them, and then
put those little cutouts around it, that you can pick up. I've made so many of those for myself, and I have them. You'll just see them everywhere. And like if I make a tray, like a whiskey tray, and I screw it up or something, I'll throw it into the drawer in the bench, and it just starts collecting bits and drill bits, or Phillips heads and star bits, and there's trays everywhere in my garage, everywhere.
You've got an abundance of trays.
But that's the cool thing about this community is you can find these things for free. You don't have to design things for yourself. You don't have to pay for things off of Etsy. Someone has designed it and uploaded it for free. And you can find that. Like all of these items on the screen for the video watchers that was free. All I had to do is provide the printer and the filament. And Carbide 3D provided the design, and I printed out that little tray. That little tray will end up going in the drawer, right, to keep it from things from flying around. So that was going to be my value add, Jim. I have not gone to market with that yet, but my value add was going to be, hey, if you can print these for free, but if you want it now, you can buy mine.
Right.
I will send it to you.
Right.
And then I will give you the free file for your CNC, because that's what you're buying this for, to hold your CNC bits. I'll give you the free file for the cutout board, whatever you call it.
Right. Yeah. And for some, they just want it. For me, sometimes I just rather I'm just gonna pay for it. It's just easier if I really need it.
The industry is going towards a paid model, Jim, and it's like a Patreon where you subscribe to someone's Patreon, and then they give you all of their models that they've created, right? And it's like a club, and there's some very technical terms about dripping models, to your patrons at a certain rate per month, and then at 12 months, or you can buy in at 12 months and you get it all. And I am right there, Jim. I'm right at the cusp. I have so many files that I've created that I either sell, or my plans. I have tool bench plans. Like I'm looking at, there's a $3,000 worth of hard maple sitting right here that I made this ginormous hobby bench. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it probably rather quickly. But it's a huge monster of a bench, and I have plans for that, right? But it's so specialized, and I perceive it as a difficult build that I don't want to sell it, because I don't want people to not be successful with it, But I think that if I owned like a Patreon shop where people subscribed and they got all of my 3D printing, all of my signs, I create signs nonstop, Jim. I've got plans for furniture, for shelving, for a desk, for kitchen cabinets, for laundry cabinets, you name it. I have created. You'll see some of it. This is the 2023 Halloween offering, Jim.
What we're showing on screen right now.
Right.
Yeah.
These are my signs. I took a couple of older designs, and then like that one in the middle, I did just rough the hell out of it, right? Just sand off until you feel like you've gotten it to a good point, or actually scrape off paint. Perfectly good paint.
Paint you just painted on there. You're not
Paint I just paid for.
distressing. Right.
But that's something I do here and there, and selling those things. And
do you think on the 3D printer side, I'm always checking out solar power and its ROI, and I can never justify it here in Nebraska just because our power is so cheap. But the 3D printer, okay, you're in $1,000 from an ROI standpoint. You ever think you'll make that back, or is it really? I don't know. Maybe that's too honest.
I've sold a few things, Jim. I'm probably a couple $100 back into it.
Okay.
Over 5 months.
Yeah, you haven't had it that long.
Owning it. Yeah. I really feel like my learning curve is just like I'm starting to get there. It's the 3D modeling portion. It's the Fusion 360 or Onshape, or there's all kinds of Blender, Tinkercad. There's all kinds of programs that you got to pick one. You got to get out there and you got to figure it out. And that's the hard part, is drawing it before you cut it or print it. Hey, there's my kid's pickup.
I was going to say, I don't know if I was supposed to show that.
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
And what the deal is I gave Jim a handful of photos, my kids, and that's my 16-year-old's new car.
Do you use it to help haul some wood from time to time?
Absolutely. It's the family pickup.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting one of these of this era. This is, what is this?
That's a 97.
Yeah.
That's old, Jim.
Yeah. Well, but it looks good.
Oh, it's in fantastic
shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like it's in good shape, but been thinking of getting one of those just for that. I've been, we built this big fire pit in the backyard, and it consumes wood. Right. And we have some good fires in it. And I'm always thinking, like, how do I get more wood? Like, how do I get more wood? And listen, on Facebook Marketplace, all the time, there's people who've cut down trees and like, come take this wood.
Yes.
Like, just take it. Right. So I've been, you can't put you can't put wood in the back of a Subaru, not the Subaru Legacy. Right. I mean, I can. I bought a little mat because I have been throwing wood back there, but so no, getting a little truck like this is helpful. So I'm sure that doubles for you as
it's very utilitarian. Yeah, it's a wonderful. Speaking of, I burnt 2 boxes of wood scraps today in my Solo.
Yeah.
What I do is I'll keep. Think of if you buy a case of coffee pods, it comes in a standard size box, and it fits in the Solo fire pit.
Yeah.
But I will take my cutoffs, and sometimes I even cut them back down smaller. Yeah. And I don't put in plywood, but I'll put in mostly pine, cherry, oak, and walnut. All goes in there, and I'll seal the box, and I'll set the whole box into the fire pit, and I just use that clicker for the whiskey smoker.
Yeah.
And light that box on fire, and the whole thing will go up.
Yeah.
I burnt 2 of those today just to get rid of them.
Right.
No one was out by the fire.
Oh.
For both boxes.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's getting rid of it, Jim. So you need to find someone like me that has scraps, and I would give you those scraps in a box ready to take to your campfire.
Yeah. My tree, I have a tree guy that lives across the street. And so I've asked him, I'm like, hey, can I just go out with you on a run? I'll help you. Then you can give me some, we can drop off some wood at my place when we're done. And so far that's worked twice. That's been pretty, it's been pretty nice, but well, that's perfect. The Solo stove is perfect for that because, there's Which did you get? Like Yukon? Do you have the big one or
It's
which
the big one, and
Yeah.
it was when they first came out, Jim.
Right,
It was
right.
it's a very early model, but yes, if you keep that box below the rim and you light it on fire, it just cooks it until there's no ash left, Jim.
Yeah.
It's all gone.
Yeah.
It just
They're super efficient.
disappears.
Yep.
I check on it. I'll poke my head around the corner and look at the pit and make sure it's not burning the house down. We're good to go. I burnt 2 boxes today.
Yeah. Jay's feeling a little bad. He came on the show and talked about build the fire pit. He didn't get it done yet. So Jay, let's get cracking on that thing. Joe also says that I could use a flatbed trailer, and I could put a hitch on my Legacy, and we do have a Outback, so I could use that for some of these kinds of things. But once I went out with my neighbor Tree Guy, and he's got this big flatbed trailer, and he's like, "You want some of this wood?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" And we just put it at the end of the trailer. He backed it in the driveway. We dropped it at the next to the house, and then I split it. A little bit later, I was like, "Oh, I don't ever want to go back to collecting wood again." I mean,
after you split your own wood, it's like, whoo.
It's a good workout. I enjoy it. It's a good workout. That's one of the. There's something about, and I use a wedge. I hand split it, so I use a wedge for him, a couple wedges. There's something about hitting that wedge and that wood splits. It's just very satisfying. And you think, my neighbor, who the Tree Guy, he's like, "You're nuts, dude." Like, but I'm like,
he does it all day long, though.
Sit in front of a computer all day and do nothing. Right?
Yeah.
And so,
it's nice to therefore that's why you enjoy the pit. You're outside, you're smelling the smells, and it's a complete reversal of looking at a screen.
Do you think you'll okay, so I'm sure Bambu is continually working on upgrading, and is this one of those things where, and that 3D printer doesn't look very big. So do you think it'll be
285 millimeters square?
Okay.
So you can do about an 8-inch tall print and 285 millimeter square print. It's not big, but it's surprising how much you can fit in there, right?
Yeah. You also, I think you alluded to this earlier, and I think this is maybe one of the best family things that I've seen is this the desk in the office there where everybody gathers around to build?
That is definitely it.
Built by you? Did you build it?
That's my design and my build. It's all drawers, undermount drawer slides. So you see all the nice, pretty drawer sides there. And then on the other side, those are some Harbor Freight bins. I mean, very simple, inexpensive bins that we have rocket parts and you name it, hobby parts. And the first time I've ever done this, Jim, is the top surface of this is it's under the brand name Formica, right? It's a kitchen counter plastic, but you can buy that, and I bought it from Home Depot, and they'll ship it to you in a big roll, and then you have to glue it down onto a substrate. And it was the first time I ever did that. I was like, I want this because I want to be able to get messy and gluey and not have it mar a wood surface. I want it to be on a it's a plastic. It's Formica. It's plastic.
Yeah, it's bulletproof. I mean, I don't want to say it's bulletproof.
Almost bulletproof. You're right.
Bulletproof. Yeah,
you're right. And I took a big old piece of MDF and created a substrate, and I wrapped it in. It's got mitered corners of hard maple, and you can get a better look at this on my Instagram if you want. But it was a wonderful build. I enjoyed every minute of it. There were those moments, where I'm building it. I'm like, crap, I don't know if this is going to fit through the door. So
it's heavy both Formica and MDF are.
It's very modular, heavy. Jim.
Yeah.
That is very modular. So it comes apart into different systems and is transportable up. The top comes off, the drawers come out, and there's a big piece that just goes right through the door. And you see that there's 4 spots. There's 4 spots for chairs all around that in order to put, people. And you don't really sit a lot. I find myself standing at it mostly, but sometimes it's nice to just corner your butt onto something to sit on.
Yeah.
So after we made this, during the model of this, I modeled this after an IKEA chair. And the IKEA chair is not very wide, but it was 24 inches to the seat, which is like a mid-bar height. It's not a desk chair. It's not a student chair. It's not a bar stool, but it's like mid-bar height. So I modeled this after that. This is a tall working desk that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And they were $95. And then with inflation, they went up to like $110, $115 each. I'm like, well, I can't have this. I just need to make a chair.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to make any old chair. I made a CNC model of a mid-bar height chair that will fit my exact desk and will fit on my CNC table, which is not big. I can cut 30 inches by 30 inches on my CNC table. And so you can do it out of 2 plates, 2 pieces of plywood. You set it down and then you make the chair. There's my chair. Jim, that is my chair. I made that chair.
You designed that, and here
I designed it, cut it out,
and show the video again.
That guy right there.
Did you buy the pad that
I did buy the pad.
My daughter would make that pad for you, by the way. She could make it and sew it, and she's done that for us.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways that you can create the seat of this chair. And I had a piece of plastic left over, if you stay on that photo.
Oh, okay.
From the hobby desk build, and it was 23 inches deep, and it was 65 inches wide. I'm like, that's my desk. So if you think about my office upstairs, Jim, the 3D printer is sitting on this right now, right across from this little hobby table. And all of these drawers and these 2 doors are filled with 3D printing filaments and tools and you name it.
What's that? What's the wood on this?
This is the cheapest plywood at Home Depot that money will buy.
So pine or whatever.
It's Pringles, I think they called it. No, it was almost flat. Yes, it is maple veneered.
Okay. Yeah.
Maple veneered 3/4 inch
plywood.
Yeah. And you can see I did it as a cabinet. These are 2 cabinets, Jim.
Yeah.
They're 2 base cabinets. They're very wide base cabinets, but you can see the toe kick because I stand over there a lot.
Right.
There's not a chair sitting there.
Right. Is the cabinet design a pretty easy one to find online if you were going to build one of those?
Millions.
It's got to be pretty common. Right?
I can sell you mine, but and I designed mine so simple, Jim. I mean, it is so simple.
Yeah.
My plan is on Etsy right now, and if you bought it and built it, you could buy a sheet of plywood and build that cabinet, this weekend if you wanted to. And it's so simple. It is so. If you can cut straight with anything, you can build that cabinet.
Well, that would be questionable for me. you sent one more picture though. You've got some. Did you build? Is this like a display cabinet?
This is my Lego display shelf, and you see that moon there, Jim?
Mm-hmm. At the bottom
3D
right.
printed.
Really?
That's a 3D printed moon lamp.
Really?
That took 28 hours.
Wow.
To 3D print. But can you see the contours and the shadows?
Yeah.
The photo I've taken is doing it no justice whatsoever, Jim. It looks so cool. That is so cool. And you can see my Lego. I'm a space nerd too.
Yeah, my son has that one. Same one.
Yeah. Loved that build. That was such a fun build.
28 hours. So I'm assuming it's just
it's just spinning. Yeah. layer by layer by layer.
Super thin layer, right?
It's actually kind of thick, Jim. This
Really?
is a very hardy build, and that outside layer is all the little bumps, and it's creating these shadows by thickness.
Right.
And it's an actual moon map. They didn't guess at this.
Wow.
It is, and you can get that free. That model is free to print.
Wow. That's cool. Little light goes
just
in.
Just bought a light off of Amazon and printed a stand and done. But you can see my shelf, Jim. Here. See, this is something I take pride in, is like I ran all the trim around the shelf in a little piece of hard maple, so you're not seeing the plywood. It's called banding. And then I took on the top is a nice piece of hard maple. It looks kind of like a tabletop or a coffee tabletop. It's got some beveled edges, and it's just something you take your time with and make something nice for yourself.
Yeah, an interesting design, as the back is open with the exception of the middle, which has a support piece that goes down the back.
Do you know the reason why I did it like that?
No.
So it would fit on one piece of plywood. I have this thing, Jim, where if I can build something out of one sheet, I feel like it's a win.
Yeah.
That whole shelf is one sheet. Now, the top is a piece of hard maple. The banding is, extra.
Mm-hmm.
But most guys that work with wood, you can find that stuff laying around in your shop, and you can just glue it on, nail it on, or whatever.
Yeah, here's a look of it. Here's a look at it. I'm assuming this is out in the shop. We'll throw that out there.
That's probably, it's one of my very early. But look how that maple. Look at that. This is maple veneered plywood from Home Depot.
Yeah.
But once you put, I think I did a wipe-on polyurethane on that, which is simple. I mean, literally, you wipe it on, it dries, you sand it, and you do it again, and you're done.
What's plywood going for? Veneered plywood going for these?
That sheet was 85.
Oh, that's not terribly bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those used to be about $50.
I was going to say 40, 50.
Yeah.
Probably pre-COVID with everything.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. Here's a look. This is on the CNC, right?
That is.
This is you cutting out that dead and breakfast sign there. What's a typical, like a sign like this? How many hours do you think you have into something like that?
Actually, that cut, Jim, takes probably 13 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
The problem, Jim, is the paint. It's the painting.
Yeah.
Right? You saw that round sign, which has hours and hours of painting in it. And this one, the reason that it looks so funny is there's a piece of plastic on top of it. I'm not only cutting the wood, but I'm cutting the plastic. And then what I do is I'll clean it up, and then I'll paint it. And I'm the world's worst painter. I may seem like I'm crafty, but I'm not.
Oh.
I paint like, a 2-year-old with a 7-inch, paintbrush. I am that detailed.
Oh. Yeah.
But with that plastic laying on it, you can just slop your acrylic paint on it. And then when the acrylic paint dries, you pull the plastic off.
Got it.
And your lines are just crisp.
I got it. So before the cut, you're laying it's almost like painter's tape.
Yeah.
Right. So you're putting that down, and then you're letting the CNC cut through it. Then you paint it. Then pull that off, and it just gives you the super.
There's some things you have to do. You have to do some sealing tricks. Your blades have to be sharp.
Yeah.
And and you have some cleanup to do. But Jim, I cut yours in several different methods. Yours is a multi-cut because you can see how difficult your logo is because the glass is the black within the white, right? But your G and your text on the top are all cut under plastic.
Yeah, here
I
wish I could zoom in on that now.
That's fine. That's great.
That's right. Yeah.
We don't want anybody to see all the detail.
If you get at the angle.
No, I'm just kidding.
You can see the flaws. No,
I actually thought it turned out really nicely.
I really love it. Everybody that sees it goes, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and I'm like, "Buddy made that for me." So, yeah, no, super cool. Yeah, it's a little bit of work that goes into it, but I mean, this is it a little addictive to you start one of these and you're like, "What am I doing?" And then you get done and you're like, "That was great." I mean, is it that kind of situation?
Yes, absolutely. There's times where you're humbled beyond belief, where you kick your boots off and you crawl to bed thinking, I am the worst maker ever. I am just awful. Yep. Why did I even try this? And then there's those times where you slide that piece into its final location. You're like, son of a bleep. I just made that.
Yeah. Step back and you're like,
I made that.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
And surprisingly, Jim, there's a lot of makers in our community. Like Gordon Schmidt, he's a big maker. Yep. He's got more tools than I do, man.
Wow.
Yeah. Along with all those snowmobiles he has.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Gordon in a long time.
I know. I
call him back.
Every once in a while we'll talk over Instagram. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, how's that tool? He's like, oh, it's a great tool.
That's a good. He was a good podcaster. I'll have to track him down again.
He's a fun guy.
Of him.
Have in the community.
Have him on. He had a slew of kids at one point, 4 or 5, and he got kind of busy, and it was hard to get him.
As one will.
Yeah, his kids are probably grown up. They're probably not. They're probably racing around on the snowmobile.
Yeah, they're in powder right now. Minnesota.
Always snowing in Minnesota. Always snowing. Well, Dave, as we think about wrapping this up, let's do a little tech, because you and I both started in this space. What's keeping you busy from a technology standpoint? Right
Tech, now? I am still in the Synology arena. Much of the same, Jim. There's 3 in the house that all talk to each other, that all back up. Still have a lot of cloud. I don't have the websites that I used to have, which afforded me a lot of offsite, not only the ability to code something to do a task, but the ability to temporary store something. I don't have that anymore. So I've had to, figure some personal things out, but I do have a lot of backups. I still have tons of backups. I did open an instance of home automation that you told me to
Home Assistant.
Yeah. And I got it running and I looked at it and I connected the app to it and I looked at the app and I went to bed. I'm like, I did it. I don't know what I did, but Jim, I just don't know what to do with it anymore. So I have technology in the house, but I'm finding more and more that when its battery expires, I usually just leave it hanging up there and never touch it again and just kind of delete it out of the program. I'm currently in a mode where I'm trying to get out of smart things. I'm trying to remove myself from smart things. I do have a lot of...
It's going to make some people sad, Dave, by the way you say.
It is. It's fine, though. Yeah. It is fine. I don't feel like I have different things to chase, right? Yeah. I don't get that same euphoria as I once did when a box of door sensors and like, 3 different kinds of door sensors. I know what I'm doing this weekend. Yes. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Right.
It's just like, ooh, I got a new delve square from Woodpeckers. I'm like, I'm going to go square up my jointer so bad.
Square up your jointers, which is code for something else. But anyway,
right. I don't.
That's my.
I don't. And I'm sure people geek out over the things they want to geek out over, and my tastes have just moved on. And I'm the guy that yells at the ALEXA and like, don't you know what I'm thinking? You know what I want to know. So why don't you do it? But I'm still a geek. I still want to have my phones. I'm an Apple phone guy now because my kids are.
Yep.
And once you buy the Apple phone, you buy other things. And I bought the AirPods Pro, and I don't think I'll ever go back.
You got a watch, right? You
I
said
was
you bought an Apple Watch?
given a watch Series 3.
Oh, I have a 4 and it's great. They're fine.
I just don't wear it.
Oh, well, that doesn't help.
Yeah, I kind of like to wear it, but then I don't. But I'm sure if I had a fancy brand new one, I would wear it for a little while.
They're not that much better. Just to be honest, like they don't do that much more. I bought the 4 instead of the 3 because it had the AFib.
I think I would like it for the health.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't need it to, time my runs, Jim.
Right.
Right.
It's not a great it's not a great fitness watch for those kinds of things, but general health, general tracking, that kind of stuff, it's great for.
But the common things like what the phone can do, and the AirPods Pro, Jim, that's changed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I mow with those. Yeah. You travel with those. They're just amazing with the cancellation. I don't know how I got along with that. I used to use the Bose, the big ones, and actually those are coming back into style. But I don't know how I got along without those. And I've had a plethora of Apple devices all the way up to what I'm using now. I have 2 iMacs sitting in front of me. I'm a creative, Jim. I run creative software. I feel like that I just grew up with the Mac and creativeness. And I've told you before, Jim, I have my MacBook. I'm in a MacBook Air M2 right now, which I absolutely love. And there was a point where you and I were still in our Windows phase, and I bought a brand new Surface Laptop 2, I think it was. And it was beautiful. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I just didn't love it. I just didn't love it. I just returned it. I was like, I don't like this. That's when I turned in my pen, Jim. I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
I know. That program's 9 years old now.
Yeah.
Crazy. I just got that email today from them. Yeah.
So funny story. Do you still have that Lenovo laptop? Do you remember the?
Yeah, no, I remember. No, that thing is long gone.
Yours is long gone. Yeah, I still use mine today.
Really?
So the funny story that nobody on your show knows, unless you have told them, was back in a home server show podcast day. I brought up that I would like to try a Chromebook. And then the next week, here's Dave with a Chromebook. I had bought it's awful machine. It was absolutely abhorrent, awful Chromebook, but it was new, right? And I'm trying it. I liked it because it ran Chrome. 3 days after that episode aired, there's a box that, back in these days, I knew what was coming on FedEx. And this came and I had no clue. I'm like, what is this? Open it up. And it was from your friends at Microsoft. And it's a brand new Lenovo Yoga. Yeah. I mean, this thing did the flippy bendy touch screen. It was top of the line, Jim. I know, because we got you one.
Yeah.
We're getting to that part.
Yeah.
From your friends at Microsoft. Well, maybe they listened to Home Server Show and they didn't. And this was a Surface Geeks era as well. And I don't think that they thought the Chromebook was that. It was just a.
They did not
story.
Want you. Yeah, they did.
They did not like that Chromebook on that show.
Did not want you running
Lenovo Yoga. So that machine is in my garage right now, attached to the CNC. It's a 24/7 machine.
Yeah, it'd be good use for it.
Never turns off.
Yep.
And Jim, when was that? When?
It's got to be 8 years ago.
Because a year later, a year after that, we traveled. We were in Redmond. We were on the campus. We were at an unnamed marketing executive's office, and asked me, "Hey, Dave, you still got that Lenovo?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love that thing." And it's like, "You need another one?" I'm like, "Honestly, I don't need another one." And He's like, Jim, do you want one? And you're like, yes.
Yeah, I'll take one. Yeah.
Inside you were going, hell yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except he
Those
couldn't find the power cord. I had
true.
to buy a power cord for it a little bit later.
Those were the
But
days, Jim.
Those were fun
Those
days.
were the days.
Joe says, "Oh, more self-congratulatory backslapping."
I think of that often. I do.
I do. I use that
I love
statement
that.
all the time when people
I
are
do.
when things are getting a little carried away on recognition. I say, "Oh, that's self-congratulatory."
Some of the stories that we never told, some of the stories we couldn't tell the audience, right?
Right.
Because of the whole Windows
Yeah.
thing.
It's a different world on campus now. That whole program's changed over, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Panos is gone.
Panos just
Panos
recently. Well, Dave, always great to have you on. I always get about an hour in some change of your voice, and then it starts.
I know my voice gives out, and I'm done. In case we don't get to do this again, there's this other story.
But go ahead. But
there was a time where it was Surface 3 era. I don't know why this is on my mind. I think because of that Lenovo story.
Yeah.
The Surface 3. I hold the world's record for the first human being to ever destroy a Surface 3. The device had never even been on the store shelves yet, Jim, and I'd already dropped one and broken it. The story is Microsoft was always so good to me. They flew me out to New York, and I met tons of stars, and they gave me a Surface 3, and they said, "Here, take this home. They're not released yet, and this one doesn't have a UL tag on it yet, so just be careful with it. Don't publish anything. Just here, take this.
Just use it. Just use it. Have fun."
Well, I dropped it in the airport. I broke it. I felt so bad, Jim.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. And I told Microsoft, I'm like, "Do you want this back?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Can I have another one?"
Did they give you one?
They
give you another?
They gave me another one.
They did.
Yeah.
They were always very generous.
Microsoft.
Yeah. They were always very generous.
They were really good to me.
They were good hosts. Like when we went for all the MVP stuff that we did together, it was always very.
If there's anything I miss, it's that right there.
Yeah.
Those moments. It's like I used to tell you during the meetups where you do the opening statement and you sit back in the back of the room and you just relax back and you look at what you've created and it just runs.
Yeah.
Right? Those meetups. I told you that feeling. I don't know why I'd always had that feeling of like this accomplishment. You just sit back and watch it go. You created something.
Yeah.
It was always fun to do that.
This is the feeling I have when I do this podcast. I told you I've tried to stop this thing several times.
It's hard to stop.
I've watched you stop 3 actually. Maybe more. But I've watched you start and stop a few, and I just enjoy, like, it's moments like this where I get to spend an hour and some change with you. We have some dear friends who are listening on the other end live. There'll be, a couple hundred, whatever that number is, who listen to it later. I'll get a few emails. They appreciate hearing from you, and you kind of go, "Yeah, I'll do it again. Why wouldn't I?" Like, there's no, it's not like this is hard. You just get on a microphone, ask some questions, enjoy the time.
Until something in your life tells you that you need to change, there's no reason for you not to.
No. And there isn't. Like, my kids are gone. Sarah doesn't even really like me. And so like, I'm just, it's just like, Thursday nights. It's so funny how these things settle in. And Jim Shoemaker is put the hashtag best meetup ever out there, which
that was a good hashtag.
Is a pretty good one.
You know what? We have the Micro Center now. So if anybody wants to come and
we need to get out there. Yeah.
Make it happen, Jim. Before episode 600, get us a new hashtag and we'll do something in the spring.
Yeah.
Maybe late spring, early Mayish.
Yeah, something along those lines. I've said that about 8 times. it never really, I have the hardest time getting those going. I don't know. You were always really good at that. You said it, you follow through. I've tried to, I've tried to think about Omaha would be a great location, center of the country. You think it would be easy for me. And every time I get it started, I just go,
it's an
I don't know.
amazing thing to release something in the wild like that and have people put down hard-earned money for a plane ticket to come to something that you made. It's unbelievable. And the friends that we made, like Scoon and all these guys in your lobby right now listening are just amazing humans. Amazing humans that would do absolutely anything for either you and I or Scoon or Chris Kinney or Lux or Zadler. You know, if we needed something, those guys would be like, all right, Dave, who we got to hurt? Let's go. You know,
Johnny Z. Oh my gosh. What great memories. What great memories. Well, Dave, I always appreciate you coming on. Thanks for saying yes. We'll have you on for 6:04 or something like that, because I'm just going to keep going. It's just too much fun. It's just too much fun. Maybe we get something together. I don't know. I say that, and then
if anything, I don't want to exclude anyone. Anyone would be always welcome, you know, here.
Yeah.
But you guys are always welcome.
I appreciate that.
You, Chris, and Scoon, and all these guys, and Stutzman. I haven't even heard of Stutzman in
I haven't seen John
2 or 3 years. Vinyl Freak. I think I follow all these guys on Facebook. So it's like we're in each other's hometowns. We just don't see each other.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their thing.
Busy.
Everybody's got their thing. So
everybody's busy. Thank you for having me, Jim.
No, great to have you. Can you hang out for just 1 second as I close this thing up? A couple reminders on the way out. Don't forget to join us in the Discord group. Very nice group out there, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. If you want to leave a message for me, got a comment, a question, whatever, just go over to homegadgetgeeks.com. Just hit the microphone button and leave us a message. Kyle Wilcox, that's another name right? Yeah, there we go. Kyle's been on before. I need to get him back on too. He's always a great guy to have. The AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. That's Christian. You know him. He's been on the show, continues to come on the show. By the way, Dave, best decision I ever made was to fold in Cyber Frontiers to Home Gadget Geeks. I guess I have closed down one time.
I never miss an HGG with Christian on it. Yeah, so make sure you tell him that, because I really enjoy. I will. He needs to double up though.
Yeah, I will. I'll get him on here more often. Of course, his plans start web hosting is as inexpensive as $10 a month. Check it out. Maple Grove Partners, all one word, .com. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and a few of you do from time to time. I always appreciate you hearing from you. Neil, I especially enjoy hearing from you. Neil is my most faithful emailer, and he sends me probably every 3 weeks I get a message from him. Neil, thanks for doing that. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'll be back next week. I think it's blank, but I'm going to fill it in with somebody. And then I've got the 2 shows behind the schedule. We've got guests with some crazy technology that you're going to want to be here for. Come out and join us next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. For those of you who listen live, Joe, Brian, Jay, I saw Ken earlier, Jim Shoemaker, Brian, I think I already said Brian already, but I'll say Brian again. Thanks for coming out. And with that, we'll say goodbye.